Hi everybody, and welcome to another week of Animazing Animals. Well, it's an absolutely wonderful day. It's so lovely and warm. It's like being in the rainforest in a really warm country. Now, what I thought we'd do today is concentrate a little bit on some of the baby animals that we have here. Every year we have quite a number of little babies born, so I'm going to show you some of those today. Hope you enjoy them. Okay, this is one of our baby tarantulas. This one's just probably about 6 months old. When we bought it, the size of a money spider. So what you have to do is you have to keep them apart, because obviously what they will do if you put them together, they end up eating each other. And then we feed them live food. They'll only take baby crickets or fruit flies, that kind of thing. And eventually they start to grow. And what they'll do is when they're babies, they'll actually shed their exoskeleton or their skin probably about 3 times, 4 times a year. And that's because they're growing fast. Now when they're adults, they only actually change their exoskeleton or their skin once a year, and that's to replace any of the hairs that they might have rubbed off with their back feet if they protect themselves. Now this is actually the largest species of tarantula in the world. Sorry, the second largest species in the world. The largest is the Goliath bird eater. I might be able to show you a picture of that in a minute. And I can show you the adult of one of these now. Really lucky actually. I just mentioned the Goliath bird eater. At the moment she's right at the front of her tank, and you can see she's really large. Probably about the size of a dinner plate if you put her onto a plate and if you stretched her legs out. Now, so this is the largest species of tarantula in the world. You see under here she's got some big fangs. Let me get them about 1.5 centimetres long. And she usually uses those to inject her prey. And what she can do is just basically paralyse the prey by using the venom that comes out of her fangs, and then she will eat it. Now big spiders like this don't make conventional spiders' webs, reason being they're just too heavy. You can imagine if this was to make a normal conventional spider's web, it'd have to be the size of thick string, and of course the spider is so heavy, you know, it'd need that type of like thickness to support its body weight. Now obviously the idea of a spider's web is to catch its prey, and they need to be almost invisible. So obviously if you had a big web that was made out of almost like thick string, no animal is going to actually fly into that. But a pretty cool spider. Not the friendliest, I'm afraid. I can't actually hold this one, and I wouldn't even attempt to hold it. It'd probably actually try to sting me pretty badly. Right, this is one of our baby lovebirds this year. This is a Fisher's lovebirds, and it's the first time we managed to breed these. We bought the adults last year, and they laid some eggs earlier in the year, but they were still quite young. But now they've finally managed to have one little baby one. And this one's about 6 weeks old. So another week he'll be out of the nest, flying around with his parents. You see he's in there. They always make a very messy nest. They will shred like leaves and twigs, any bits of paper or newspaper they can get. In the wild, these little lovebirds form vast flocks where they fly around. And then when they pair up, they normally pair up for life, and that's why they're called lovebirds, because you always see type of 2 sitting together. So little Fisher's lovebird, which is pretty cool. Right, so this is the adult of the spider that I showed you a minute ago, the little baby one. It's a salmon pink bird eater, and it's actually the second largest species of tarantula in the world. The largest one is the one that I've just showed you, the Goliath bird eater. Now this one's about 8 or 9 years old, and we've actually had her since she was the size, well, smaller than the one I showed you earlier. So it's quite a long time project, and it's really, really rewarding when you get them big like this. Now a female spider, which this one is, will actually live up to about 22, 23 years old, whereas a male tarantula, they will die by the time they're probably about 4.5 years old. Now the female is not ready to have babies, to reproduce, until she's at least 5.5. So by the time she's ready to breed, all her brothers would be dead, so therefore there's no crossbreeding. So pretty cool spider. Okay, here we've got a couple of our baby Horsfield's tortoises, and you can see they can move really, really quite fast. Now these, we actually bought them last year in November last year, so they're about 6 months old, and when we bought them they were the size of 10p pieces, so very, very tiny indeed. and you can see they've grown really, really fast. Now, people always think tortoises take a long time to grow. They don't. They actually grow quite fast. The reason being that if you're the size of 10p, you can fit in lots of predators' mouths. Whereas once you get to this size, and these are probably about 10 centimetres now, coming up to 10 centimetres long, there's a lot. You'd obviously need to be a bigger predator with a bigger mouth to swallow one of these whole. And you can see they do like to try to make a bit of a run here. And she's going into the plants here, probably looking for something to eat. Obviously I need to keep an eye on them so they don't disappear. Common mistake that people do is they buy these and automatically think, oh yes, number one, we can put them out in the garden, no problem whatsoever, and number two, we can hibernate them. They're far, far too small to hibernate. If you hibernated a baby tortoise like this for 2 or 3 months, you can more or less guarantee it will die, because basically they haven't put enough body weight on. And the other thing that people do is they think, oh, I'll put it in the garden, and then they wonder why it's disappeared, and quite often something like a magpie would come down and take them away if you're not careful. So we have to make sure that we don't let them escape anywhere, so they're all in their little pens so they can't actually get out, because believe me, you can see there they can move quite fast when they decide to take off, so it wouldn't take very long for them to actually disappear. These ones originally come from Russia and Afghanistan, where over there, because of the climate, it gets very, very cold in the winter. They actually hibernate for 3 or 4 months in the winter to get out of the cold. But also it gets very, very hot, a bit like today, above 35 degrees. And of course, animals don't particularly like hot temperatures like that, or most animals. So they will actually go into a form of hibernation in the summer as well. And that can be for 2 to 3 months. So pretty cool little tortoise. Okay, we've got some of our baby animals that we've bred this year. These are some of our poison dart frogs, and these are called Leucomelas. Leuca in Latin means yellow. That's why they're called that. Now there's about 6 of them in here, and these have been out of the water for about 4 weeks now. And it's really quite important they're actually kept in these type of small tubs, which are very, very moist, with some live plants in there, to find their food. Then they're going to take tiny little fruit flies and little micro crickets and springtails. So it's really important that they're in a small environment that they can actually find those. So I'm going to show you how we actually breed these. Put the lid back on. So I'm going to go to the tank where they were born. Right, so what we do is, this is the tank where the frogs are hiding at the moment. And this is called a honeymoon hut. And what it is a coconut shell, which I drilled a hole in the front and then cut them in half like this. In half like that, and then that goes over the top of this lid. Now this is just an ordinary Pringles lid. You know, when you have a packet of Pringles, you take the lid off, the plastic lid. Most people throw them away. Well, I've got a really good use for them, because the frogs will actually lay the eggs on there. So we put that over like that. Then what will happen, probably about every 2 weeks, the female will go in there, and followed by the male, and they will lay eggs. And then what happens once the eggs are laid, I'm going to show you. We take the eggs out. Here's some eggs here, and we put them into like a little tray that's got water in it to keep them really, really wet. So these eggs were laid today, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really black ones. They're really good. They'll be fertile. They'll actually hatch into tadpoles. But the one in the middle there, let me just show you that one there. That's infertile. That won't be any good. That won't actually hatch. That'll just go mouldy. These ones were laid 2 days ago, so they're beginning to develop. Just if you look really, really carefully there, you can actually see the little tadpoles, little lines across there. So they're the baby tadpoles beginning to form. The cells are splitting. That's pretty cool. And then what happens? They hatch into little tadpoles, and these are some that I actually put fresh into the water today. Oh, there we go. You can see they're quite lively. Now, we don't feed these for about a day. The reason being that they've still got some egg sac on them underneath, and also they have gills which actually need to be reabsorbed into their body before we actually start to feed them. And then what will happen after that, we'll just start to feed them a little bit of food every day. Best food we find is to just give them some crushed up fish food. There's a tadpole there. It's got a bit of a thing on the side. That'll be fine. Yeah. And then as they grow, There's another one there. Yep, you see, they grow. And then eventually, hopefully I can find you one that's... Yeah, here we go. Right, this one's grown quite big now. It's probably about 3.5, 4 centimetres long. And... where are you? Yeah, he's beginning to get his back legs. You can see the back legs now. Just, there we go. There's the back legs. And the bump there on the side, that's where the front legs come through. So the front legs will push through, and that's when I stop feeding them. Because this long tail needs to absorb back into the body before it can turn into a frog. Then it comes out of water and it goes back to where we started from. Now these are probably going to be quite hard for me to actually film to show you, but these are some baby praying mantises that we've bred. And they hatched last week, and there was 145 babies. Now the only way to rear these successfully, if you want to keep lots of them, is to actually put them into individual tubs. So what we do is we have a little plastic tub, or in my case lots of plastic tubs, and each one has a bit of tissue paper which is moist in the bottom, a little bit of fruit and some fruit flies, and a twig for the praying mantis to stand on. And they'll stay in there probably for about 3 or 4 months, where they keep on growing. I have to make sure they keep moist and give them plenty of food. There we go. Now eventually what will happen is they will turn into these larger ones up here. And this is one of the ones we bred earlier in the year. I'll just open up the tub so you can see how it is. As you can see. So this one's gone through about 7 molts to get to this size. And it's got one more molt to go, and then it will turn into an adult. It's a pretty cool little insect. Now they all have to be kept on their own, because they will actually cannibalise or eat each other all the time, no problem at all. It's a pretty cool little insect. Okay, so what we've got here is something rather special. This is a baby boo-boo cow. Boo-boos originally come from Australia, and we've got a pair down the garden, and this year they've produced a chick. Now the reason that I'm looking after the chick is that basically, if I want to take them out for educational work, to take to schools or shows or wherever, or to charity events, whatever, they need to be tamed. Now obviously if I leave them with the parents, they are totally wild. They're like a wild bird. So what we have to do is we actually take them out when they're about 4 weeks old, and then we hand feed them. So you can see that she actually thinks I'm her mum or her dad, and that way they remain tame for the whole of their lives. And I'll be able to handle her and show her to everybody. Whereas if I left her with the mum and dad, basically they would scratch you to pieces when you go anywhere near them. So what I'm doing every day, she has some chopped up freshly defrosted chick with vitamin on it, and baby rats, baby mice, and she will actually, at the moment, she'll eat a whole chick and 2 or 3 rat pups, so she's doing really well. Her wing feathers on the back there are quite well formed already, so within a week in the wild she'll actually be out of her nest, being able to fly around no problem whatsoever. She's quite good at perching at the moment. I've been looking for names for this one. At the moment I'm thinking Basil might be quite a good one. Someone suggested Sydney, which I think is quite nice as well, obviously coming from Australia. And what I'll do is each week I'll take some pictures of this, or I'll show you show you some more footage. You'll be able to see the difference. You'll be amazed at how quickly they grow. A boo-boo cow from Australia. So guys, that's it for another week of me showing you some of the animals that we keep here. Hope you've enjoyed seeing them. Springtime is always a lovely time for us, especially when we have babies of any type of animal. And I'm absolutely fascinated by all of them. Even the baby praying mantis is absolutely an amazing thing to see, particularly when they hatch and then you rear each baby. So have a good week. Try to keep out of the sun a bit, don't get too hot, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.